name is Liz Partsch.
And I'm Paul Rowley.
And welcome to Farm & Dairy's virtual newsletter.
Where we'll be giving you a rundown of all the news this week. And this was a big issue. There's actually quite a bit to talk about today.
Yeah, we have lots of news coming up. Yeah. So let's dive in.
All right, so we're going to do a little thing right here. So when I say OH, you say IO. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
OH?
IO!
OH?
IO!
Okay, awesome. All right, so the 97th Ohio FFA Convention kicked off this past week. And there was lots of energy, lots of excitement, and thousands of young leaders from all corners of Ohio gathered in Columbus to celebrate the convention, the FFA Convention. Very big deal. 96-year tradition of leadership, growth, and agricultural excellence on display. And I got a chance to go and walk through and see everything. It was really an exciting time. So FFA in Ohio, it's got 30,000 members and about 342 chapters. Wow. Which is a ton. And it's more about than just farming. It's all kinds of things. FFA embraces just a full spectrum of careers in science, technology, all of these things. And the convention was really just a display for all of the things that are possible in agriculture today, and all the things that are also possible for FFA members too. So obviously, we recognized a bunch of folks at the convention. The FFA Foundation honored the top 10 chapters in the state, which was really cool to hear some of what they did and to win that title. And then also there were several new organizations that were added to the fold as well. Outstanding students were named, like Ohio's Star American FFA degree winners. Those were really cool. Those folks majorly achieved things in science, in placement, in farming. Career development events, or those CDEs, those were another highlight, and that showcased students' technical skills, academic skills. They had to do a lot of things to win those sorts of...
Yeah, wow, sounds like a lot.
Indeed, yeah. There was a group of folks that I talked to that it would be really cool to check that out in the paper, the Loramie Bioscience team. They were definitely big winners. Make sure to check out the article to hear some insights from their work. That was really an interesting conversation I got to have with them. I also got the chance to speak with he was a former ag teacher and also an advisor to an FFA group. And he said that being a part of FFA is more than just about being, getting a career. It's about building character. I'd really liked the way that he put it to me. I know, just, if you want to immerse yourself in that stuff, to definitely check out the article in the paper this week.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this week I read about the infamous Maksowanka murals at St. Nicholas Croatian Catholic Church in Millville, Pennsylvania, which, if you don't know, is near downtown Pittsburgh. And this church goes way back. It was the first Croatian Roman Catholic church in the country, established in 1900. Yeah. And it's also listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's most famous for its murals painted by Croatian immigrant Maksowanka in the 1930s and 40s. Vanka was actually raised in poverty for the first 8 years of his life before his grandfather, lifted him out of poverty. Wow. And then he ended up immigrating to the United States at the age of 45 in 1934.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So his experience, growing up in poverty and then also as a Croatian immigrant, living in Croatia at that time and then moving to the United States would really shape his murals to come. So the church, which actually burned down in the 20s, was in desperate need of artwork, after the rebuild, which left the walls, blank, from the plaster. So the pastor at the time approached Vanka and asked him to paint these murals that reflected Catholicism, but, also the local Croatian population and the immigrant population in Millville.
Okay.
So, stepping into this church myself, I have to say, I really felt like I walked into just a painting itself.
Oh, really?
With, because the murals touch every corner of that church. Even the ceiling is painted as a mural.
Must be beautiful.
So it was gorgeous. Yeah. And what is so unique about these murals is that they depict traditional Catholic events like the crucifixion and the piety, but they also represent the local immigrant contributions to America and World War II, which was ongoing during the time these murals were painted. One of my favorite murals that Ivanka painted was actually based off of a real-life coal mining accident in Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
And it's called Immigrant Mother Raises Her Sons for American Industry. And, that really hit hard because I'm sure, a lot of people in these areas knew people that worked in the coal mines, the strip mines.
Yeah.
So in recent years, the Society to Preserve the Millville Murals of Maksowanka was formed to restore the murals as they have seen significant deterioration over the years from, dirt buildup and water damage. So the work to restore the murals has been quite a lengthy process. It started in 2008 and is still ongoing.
Wow.
The society is actually working on its final murals and is expecting to finish them by the end of 2025, or at
That's
least start the
exciting.
final one by the end of 2025.
Yeah.
So, they're really asking the local communities for help and asking for donations to really finish that work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, Paul, I have to say, I really enjoyed writing and learning about these murals because, not only are the murals themselves fascinating, how he was able to, paint the ceiling, but, many people I talked to at the church when I went say the message in the murals is still relevant today.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, so to find out what that means, check out the paper this week, online or, print.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I'd love to see some of these, maybe the pictures of the murals or
Yeah.
something too. It sounds like such an unmissable thing. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Well, those will be in the paper too. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll go check that out. All right. Well, let's take things a little bit back. We'll dive into a murky debate that's happening in environmental law right now.
Murky waters.
Yes, that's right. So what counts as a water of the United States? Waterway, water body. Maybe you've heard the term WOTUS. Maybe you have not. Maybe you've seen the acronym WOTUS, or Waters of the United States, a key component of the Clean Water Act, that seminal piece of legislation. What does it actually mean? What does WOTUS actually mean? And why has it become such a flashpoint for farmers, developers, regulators, just a whole bunch of group of people? So on May 1st, federal officials from the EPA and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, they had another listening session. They've been having several recently with different groups of people. The one I attended had stakeholders ranging from ranchers and scientists to real estate experts, environmental consultants, all kinds of people were there. They've been doing all these sessions, and the goal of these listening sessions has been to clarify the meaning of waters of the United States once and for all. So here's the issue. So for decades, ever since the Clean Water Act became law, WOTUS, Water of the United States, it's been redefined. The meaning of it has been challenged in court, and it's been rewritten by every administration pretty much.
Wow.
And then in 2023, the Supreme Court dropped a bomb, significantly ruling in Sackett versus EPA, in a ruling that limited their purview of wetlands, the federal government's. So now there's like several different rules happening. Some states are governed by the old rule, and some states are governed by the post-Sackett rule, which it's very
That's a lot of
confusing. It's
confusion,
very weird. Yeah. And so for farmers, everyone's left just with different questions that they want to have resolved. Some people are saying that landowners really just shouldn't need a lawyer or a PhD to walk through their own property and determine, whether a body of water on their land is regulated by the government or not, by the federal government. The EPA and the Army Corps are promising more listening sessions. So for anyone that has a stake in this and wants to get, in on it or hear what's being said, you can definitely check that out. There's one for local governments that's being held after our press deadline on May 6th. But if you want to weigh in and learn more, you can check in online where the article will be, but also in our print paper as well. It's really confusing, and I hope I did a decent enough job trying to dispel some of it.
I think you did, and it sounds like farmers should, it's something they should pay attention to. It sounds important.
Yeah.
Well, in other news, former executive director for the nonprofit Veterans of Foreign Wars of Ohio Charities, Todd Reverend, pleaded guilty for receiving about $35,000 of stolen property on May 2nd.
That's not good.
Which is a misdemeanor.
Oh, okay.
So Reverend's co-conspirator, Guy Adonian, pleaded guilty to telecommunications fraud, a third-degree felony, in January. Yeah. So the investigation, led by the Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost's charitable law section, uncovered that Adonian would write checks from the VFW's Post 404's charitable accounts, and Reverend would deposit them into his own personal and business accounts, and then he would split the money with Adonian.
Wow.
Yeah. So, both of them, Reverend was sentenced to 3 years of community control in order to pay a $1,000 fine.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Guy was sentenced to 5 years of community control in order to pay restitution.
Wow.
Yeah. But what makes this, really sad is that, this organization was established in 2003 to help VFW locations generate charitable, dollars to assist, local needy veterans in local communities.
Oh.
Yeah. So, it's like these guys are stealing from veterans who need this money and served our country. So
Yikes.
pretty depressing, but
Yeah. Oh, that's a bummer. Well, The Kukulski's barn in Portage County burned down last fall. Some of you may have read that in our paper. And then one of their silos caught on fire. It was actually burning for quite a long time. Our own managing editor, Sarah Welch, actually wrote a story in November about that fire. So you can definitely check that out online if you want to read that again. How the silo was smoldering and what impact that fire had on the barn and the farm. Then they let us know, the family that owns this property, is that silo is actually going to be demolished. And they invited Farm and Dairy out to take a look at that process. It's very dramatic. So this might be where we pause to include that video in the footage. Our own editor, Rachel Wagner, was actually able to go to the farm and take a look at that. And it was really cool.
Yeah, and very satisfying to watch that fall.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, is it true that you have speaking of fires, do you have a burning secret about deer repellent by any chance you'd like to share with the class?
Well, Paul, I do. It's actually not my secret, it's my dad's.
Okay.
So in our final lawn and garden section for the year, I wrote about my dad's not-so-secret now recipe for deer repellent, which he created about almost 10 years ago after being frustrated with, commercial deer repellents that were expensive and, didn't really work the way he was hoping they would. So the recipe actually consists of everyday basic items like eggs, soap, water, and cayenne pepper, and also blood meal, which is pretty common. You can get it at most garden centers like Lowe's, Home Depot, Tractor Supply. And it's much cheaper than commercial brands. And not only that, but it contains better, healthier, and natural ingredients for the environment. A lot of these commercial brands, contain some toxic things.
Yeah.
So the mixture can be applied to really any plant. And honestly, since my dad and relatives have started using this mixture, we have not seen many deer at all. Wow. And other animals like groundhogs and rabbits near the flowers or, his crops.
That's so cool. What an entrepreneur your dad is. That's really neat.
Yeah, so try it out for yourself. See if it works. I hope it does. And if it doesn't, don't complain to me, please.
Exactly. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Well, with all the time that you will save not having to keep deer off of your property or out of your garden and that, you can actually check out in this week's Farm and Dairy the first new installment of the Racing Report, which is a photojournalism essay by Matthew Chasney in this week's Farm and Dairy, which is just super cool. This report debuted last summer, and it focuses this time around on a different short track throughout the region, which is really cool. This year, it's going to focus on a different driver each month, starting with Cody Bova of Struthers, Ohio. So we'll get to learn more about him and see all the really cool photos that Matthew took.
Yeah, and he's a great photographer.
Yeah,
he really
that's
is.
the thing. I'm so impressed. It's a really cool looking report in the paper. Sometimes, when my car just starts to smell terribly of octane and other fumes, I like to imagine that I'm actually behind the wheel of a cool race car myself and not behind a prohibitively expensive to maintain old station wagon. So anyway, I
love that dream for you.
Yeah, thank you. So anyway, vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
And that is our top stories for the week.
To read the full stories, go to farmanddairy.com or find your local newsstand.
Thanks a lot for being with us, and we'll see you next week.